The fiancé he loved canceled their wedding after she got promoted at work. What she didn't know, what she had no idea about, was that the Korean Mafia boss was his stepbrother. Now let that sit for a second. This man ran a small cafe on a quiet street. He made pastries every morning before sunrise. He was gentle. He was patient. He was the kind of man who brought you tea before you even asked. And Sarah said yes when he proposed. Beneath the lanterns, holding the ring, she meant every word. Then she got the promotion she had been fighting for 3 years. And that same evening, she came back to that cafe, sat across from him, and ended everything. No real explanation, just I'm sorry, I can't tell you why. He had no idea what she was running from. And he had no idea who he was about to call. What happened next, nobody saw coming. If you're new here, welcome to Afro Mafia Romance Chronicles. We tell stories about love that survives impossible odds, and the people who fight for it in ways you'll never expect. If this kind of story is your thing, hit that subscribe button right now, and turn on notifications so you never miss one. And if you've been here before, you already know. Let's get into it. The night Sarah Osei walked into May's life, she was running from the rain. Not from a man, not from a secret, just the rain. She had her leather portfolio pressed against her chest. Her heels were clicking hard against the wet pavement. She wasn't looking for anything, she just needed somewhere dry. She pushed open the nearest door. A small bell chimed above her head. Warm light hit her immediately. The smell of roasted barley and something sweet baking in a back oven. A record playing low in the corner. Something old, something soft, and a man behind the counter looking up at her. Not startled, not annoyed. Just looking. He had round, wire-framed glasses sitting slightly crooked on his nose, flour on both forearms, a dark green apron, and the kind of calm in his face that you don't perform. You either have it, or you don't. The storm surprised everyone, he said. Sit wherever you like. Sarah almost said she wasn't staying. She sat down instead. He brought her tea without asking, set it beside her papers, went straight back to the counter without another word. She looked at the cup. She looked at the back of his head. She drank. 2 hours later, the rain had stopped. She was still there. His name was Baek May, 31 years old. He had opened this cafe, Gyul, which means winter, 4 years ago with everything he had saved. He made pastries every morning at 5. He knew every regular by name, by order, by the kind of day they were having when they walked through the door. He was not ambitious. He was not flashy. He was the kind of man who gave you exactly what you needed before you knew you needed it. And Sarah came back the next Thursday. She told herself she was just cutting through the neighborhood. She wasn't. She sat at the same corner table. He brought the same tea. She worked for 2 hours. Then she left without saying she'd be back. She was back Tuesday. By the 3rd week they were talking. Not big conversations, small ones, the kind that start with nothing and end up meaning something. She told him about her job, data analyst at a finance company, 3 years of doing excellent work that kept landing on other people's desks with other people's names on it. He told her about the cafe, about the recipe notebook his adoptive mother had left him, about the red bean pastries that were his best thing even though they never came out quite the same shape twice. Perfectly shaped is for factories, she told him. He looked at her like she'd confirmed something he'd always believed but never heard anyone else say. 3 weeks later she was behind the counter helping him fold pastry dough at 7 in the morning. She was bad at it. The buns came out lumpy, lopsided, thick on one side and thin on the other. She held one up. Mine look like they gave up. They look like they tried, he said. That's better. She threw flour at him. He blinked behind his glasses. Then, slowly, so slowly it was almost funny, he smiled. That was the moment she was done. She just didn't tell him yet. They were together by December. No announcement, no moment. Just a morning where she walked in, took off her coat, hung it on the hook by the door like she lived there, and they both understood that something had settled. Something real. She introduced him to her sister over video call. He made tea in the background the whole time, quietly, not trying to impress anyone. Her sister texted her immediately after. He was just making tea in the background like a golden retriever. Sarah, keep him. She kept him. By spring he knew her coffee preferences and how she liked her pastries. Warm, never hot. something bitter on the side to balance the sweet. By summer, she had a key. He hadn't made it a ceremony. He'd just handed it to her one morning and said, "You mentioned you wanted to come by before we open. So now you can." That was May. And she loved him for exactly that. But here is what Sarah didn't know. Here is the part of the picture she had never seen. May had a brother. Not by blood. By choice, which is the kind that lasts longer. His name was Baek-jun, 2 years older. He had been 13 years old, standing in the kitchen of his family's apartment in Mapo, on the first night May arrived, and he had done the only thing a 13-year-old knows how to do when he doesn't know what to say. He made ramen, set it on the table, and said, "You should eat." 34 years old now. The two of them had grown up in the same house, eaten at the same table, and become two completely different versions of a person. May took the quiet route, the cafe, the pastries, the small dignified life. June took the other one. To most of Seoul, Baek-jun was the chairman of a private equity firm called Haechanel Group. Offices in Gangnam, Tokyo, Macau, a company that moved serious money and had a spotless public record. The kind of firm whose name showed up in the financial pages next to words like disciplined and strategic. But there was another name, a name used only in certain rooms, spoken at a specific volume, just above a whisper. Daeho. June ran the Baek syndicate, had run it since he was 26, when his father died, and passed it to him with one written instruction: May never knows. June had honored that instruction every single day since. He had spent 8 years making sure no shadow from his world ever fell on his brother's clean floor. He had cleared paths May didn't even know were blocked. He had removed dangers May never knew existed. He had built walls around the cafe, around the life, around that corner table with the warm tea and the misshapen pastries, and he had done it all from the outside, without a word. May thought June was just a businessman, a very successful one. That was enough. When May called June about Sarah, June listened to the whole thing without interrupting. The rain, the corner table, the flower, the key, the sister's text message, all of it. And June, alone in the back of a car moving through late-night Seoul, said only, "She sounds like someone who pays attention. Be careful with that kind." "Why?" May asked. "Because people who know how to explain things also know how to leave without explaining why." May told him he was being cynical. June told him there was a difference between cynical and accurate. But then May told June she said yes. A single text. She said yes. June stared at it for a long time. Then he typed back, "Send me a photo of the ring at least." May sent him a photo of the cafe ceiling. And June, alone in his office at 7 in the morning, no staff around, nobody watching, allowed himself one small thing he almost never permitted. He smiled. He also quietly ordered a background check on Sarah Osei. Nothing aggressive. Standard. The kind he ran on anyone who was about to become a permanent part of May's life. The report came back clean. Good performance record at her job. One flag. Her promotion track had been stalled twice in 3 years despite exceptional reviews. Possible internal obstruction. The analyst noted it wasn't their place to speculate. June noted the flag. He filed the report. He moved on. That was the mistake he would spend a weekend correcting. The wedding was set for the first Saturday in April. 40 guests. A courtyard venue in Bukchon with paper lanterns and a menu built around food that tasted personal. Sarah's family was flying in from Accra, May's relatives from Mapo, her mother, her aunt, her sister who had never recovered from the golden retriever text. Sarah had been carrying something for weeks. May felt it. He couldn't name it. It was the way she arrived a little later each day, the way her laugh had a slight delay, like it was traveling from farther away than usual, the way she looked at her phone and then set it face down a little too quickly. He asked her once. She said work was busy. He let it go. He shouldn't have. 3 weeks before the wedding, she knocked on the cafe door at 8 in the evening, after close. May heard the knock and knew. Not from what it sounded like. From what it didn't. It wasn't Sarah's knock. That quick, familiar 3-beat rap that meant she was in a good mood and already thinking about the pastries. This knock was slow, deliberate. The knock of someone who had practiced walking through a door. He opened it. She came in. She sat at the corner table. Her table. The same one from the very first night. She kept her coat on. Her hands were folded on top of the table, and she was looking at them instead of at him. The cafe was quiet. The record player had wound down. The lanterns outside made the wet cobblestones look like a reflection of themselves. "I can't do this," she said. May sat down across from her. He didn't reach for her hands. He didn't speak. He gave her room. "I can't marry you right now." She still wasn't looking at him. "I know what this is. I know what I'm doing. But there are things happening at work. There are people involved. And if I stay, if we go through with this..." She stopped. Her jaw was tight. "I can't explain it. I need you to trust me that I can't explain it." Silence. The lanterns flickered once outside. "Are you in danger?" May asked. A pause that lasted half a second too long. "No," she said. He heard it. That half second. He knew her. He knew what her honest no sounded like. That wasn't it. But he didn't push. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "If you need time, I have time. But Sarah, whatever it is, you don't have to carry it alone." She stood up, holding herself very still, the way she did when she was fighting hard to keep it together. "I got the promotion," she said, like an afterthought, like she was telling him the weather. "Senior analyst. I start Monday." She left before he could respond. The door clicked shut. May sat at the corner table alone. The lanterns outside clicked off on their timer. The cafe went dark except for the light above the counter. He sat there for a long time, turning it over. The same day, the promotion and the cancellation. The same day. The way she'd said no, a half second too late. The word people. The word things. Then he picked up his phone. He called June. June answered on the second ring. May told him everything. He kept his voice steady. June listened without a single interruption. When May finished, the line was quiet for a moment. "The promotion and the cancellation," June said. "Same day. Same evening." Another silence. But this one had a different texture. Still, but purposeful. The silence of a door closing quietly on a room, where something was already being built. "Go home," June said. "Get some sleep. I'll call you when I know something." "June, this isn't something you need to. Go home, little brother." Not harsh, not commanding, just absolute. May ended the call. June said 2 words to his driver. "Turn around." Then he made a different call, to a man named Seo Minjun, officially a research consultant for Hey Channel Group, practically the person June trusted with the things that required both patience and precision. Former financial intelligence. Sharp, quiet. He understood that research was a word that covered considerable ground. Novabridge Financial, June said. Sarah Oze, senior analyst, as of Monday. "I want to know why they gave her the promotion now, after 3 years of holding her back. And I want to know exactly who made that decision and what it cost them." Seo Minjun asked no unnecessary questions. "Monday morning?" "Sunday night," June said. A pause. "Sunday night. Here is what they found." 3 years earlier, Sarah had built a risk model for one of Novabridge's investment portfolios. She was exceptional at her work. She had a gift for finding the thing that didn't belong, the number just slightly too round, the variance that looked fine until you compared it to 3 other data points it had no business disagreeing with. Her grandfather had kept accounts for a fleet of fishing boats in Accra when she was a child. She used to sit at his table after school and find the gaps, not to catch anyone, just because a wrong number bothered her the way a crooked picture bothers someone with a good eye. She found something very wrong at Novabridge. A senior fund manager named Kang Seong-ho had been running a fund whose risk exposure was being reported at roughly 60% of its actual level. The client-facing documents looked clean. The underlying data told a completely different story. 3 pension funds, and a sovereign wealth vehicle, were holding positions they did not have accurate information about. It was fraud, deliberate, sustained. The kind that affected real people's retirement money. Sarah had done everything correctly. She documented everything. She submitted a formal report to her supervisor, a man named Park Jin-young, through the proper internal channel. Park Jin-young buried it. He told her in writing that her analysis had errors. Then he handed her methodology to his own team, had them strip out the incriminating comparison, and filed it under his name as part of a quarterly compliance review. And then he made sure Sarah went nowhere. He couldn't fire her, that would trigger questions. He couldn't promote her, that would give her access and credibility. So he kept her suspended at exactly the level where she was visible enough to watch, and powerless enough to silence. Every promotion she was recommended for quietly disappeared. Every cross-team project that would have elevated her went to someone else. Sarah understood exactly what was happening. She had kept copies of everything: the original report, every email, backed up in 3 places. She had stayed because leaving would erase any chance of ever proving what she knew. She had waited. Then something changed the equation. Kang Song-ho was being considered for a board seat at a major investment group. The evaluation required a full compliance audit. Sarah's existence, and her copies, was now a structural liability. If she ever went public, the timing would be catastrophic. The cleanest solution: promote her. Move her into a role that came with a non-disclosure agreement, buried in the contract. Dress it as recognition. Make her sign away the right to disclose what she'd spent 3 years holding. And make sure she understood, without anyone ever saying it directly, what was at stake if she didn't. Seo Minjun had obtained a recording of the conversation. Jun listened to it. Park Jin-young's voice was measured. Warm, even. The voice of a man who had delivered this particular kind of message before, and knew exactly how much pressure to apply without leaving marks. He said, "You've worked hard, Sarah. This promotion is the firm recognizing that. We want to see you build something here. A real future. But futures require stability. For you. For the people in your life. We know how much your fiancé's café means to both of you. It would be a shame for something like that to get caught in the middle of complications. Sign the contract. Accept the role. Everyone moves forward." May's Café. They had pointed at May's Café. Not a direct threat. Not a word they couldn't deny. Just the shape of one. A hand placed gently on the pressure point of the thing she loved most. And Sarah, who had spent 3 years holding a file that could expose serious fraud, who had survived being quietly suffocated for 36 months, who was one of the most precise and clear-eyed people in that building, had looked at the thing they pointed at and felt herself buckle. Not because she was weak, because she loved him. June set the phone down. He sat completely still for a long time. Then he said, quietly, to no one in particular, to the empty room. She wasn't running from him. Seo Minjun waited. She walked into a fire to pull it away from his door. June looked at the window. The city was dark outside. She loves him enough to break her own heart to protect his café. He paused, and she had no idea what was already standing next to him. He looked at Seo Minjun. How long until the board evaluation? 11 days. The NDA signing? Monday, 9 o'clock. June looked at the clock. It was Saturday evening. Then we have tonight and tomorrow, he said. That's enough. Here is what June did not do. He did not call Kang Song-ho. He did not show up at Nova Bridge with men and cars and the kind of confrontation that makes noise. He did not threaten anyone. He did not announce himself. June's rage, when it came for someone he loved, looked like precision. First, he reached out through a legal intermediary his firm kept on retainer. A compliance attorney, with an impeccable reputation, and deep ties to the Korea Financial Intelligence Unit. Through this attorney, a package was delivered to the KFU Saturday night. Inside, Sarah's original risk analysis, the version Park Jin-young had suppressed. A forensic comparison, annotated by one of the best financial forensics consultants in Asia, showing exactly where the numbers had been altered, and how. A timeline of every promotion Sarah had been recommended for and blocked, and the email chain where Park Jin-young had called her work deficient, while his own team adopted her methodology and filed it under his name. The KFU acknowledged receipt Saturday night. A preliminary review opened Sunday morning. Second, June made one phone call, to a man who sat on the advisory board evaluating Kang Song-ho's application. They had known each other 9 years. June had done this man a significant favor once, the nature of which neither of them had ever discussed in writing. The call lasted 4 minutes. June didn't ask for anything directly. He simply said, "I've been hearing noise around Nova Bridge's compliance picture. Nothing confirmed yet, but the kind of noise that tends to get louder. I'd hate for your evaluation timeline to create an awkward situation, if something were to surface right around your announcement." The board evaluation was postponed Monday morning. The official reason was scheduling conflicts. Kang Seong-ho spent Monday trying to find out what had shifted. He made 5 calls to people he believed were in his corner. None of them called back. Third, June prepared an envelope. No letterhead, no sender information. Sealed, unmarked, Delivered by hand to the lobby of Sarah's apartment building Sunday evening. Inside, the full transcript of the recording, Park Jin-young's voice, every word, in print. And at the bottom, one line, handwritten in black ink, you were never protecting him from something unknown. You were protecting him from people who are now being handled. And a letter, one short paragraph, unsigned, written by June himself. It said, "The men who threatened you made one mistake. They looked at the person you love and thought they saw something soft. They didn't understand what they were standing next to. The threat is dissolved. The NDA signing Monday is unnecessary. You'll understand why within the week. What you do with the rest of your story is yours to decide. Freely, without anyone's hand on your back. He's at the cafe. He doesn't know any of this. That part is yours." June sealed the envelope himself. He handed it to Seo Minjun without another word. Sarah was reorganizing her bookshelf by color when the envelope arrived. She only did that when her hands needed to be busy and her mind needed to be somewhere else. She'd been doing it since Friday. The apartment was extremely organized. She sat down on the kitchen floor to open it. She read the transcript. She read it again. She saw Park Jin-young's words in print. Every implication she had spent 3 years half convincing herself she had misread. It was all there, word for word. Exactly the way she remembered it. She hadn't misread anything. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat on the papers and held them there until the shaking stopped. Then she picked up the letter. She read it once. She read it again. She sat on the kitchen floor for a long time. She thought about May saying, "I'm not going anywhere." She thought about the way he'd said, "all right," when she ended it. Not as defeat, not as acceptance, just as the steady, certain fact of a man who did not change shape when pressure was applied. She thought about 3 years of being held still, and the weekend it apparently took for someone to dismantle all of it. She thought about the line, "They didn't understand what they were standing next to." She didn't fully understand it either. She didn't know who had sent this. She didn't know what position they operated from, or how they had accessed a private recording, or what they had done to make Park Jin-young's machine stop. The shapes didn't add up to anyone she knew. They added up to something larger than anything she'd been aware of in May's life. But she understood one thing clearly. The threat was gone. And the person she had walked away from to protect him, he was at the cafe. She changed her shoes and went. The cafe was dark except for the light above the counter. May was there. He hadn't gone home properly in 3 days. He had baked more than he could sell, and given the extra to the bookshop next door, and the dry cleaner's daughter who was studying for exams. The motions helped him think. Flour, fold, shape, repeat. He was wiping down the counter when the bell above the door chimed. He looked up. She was in the doorway. She had on the same coat from the first night, the rainy Tuesday, the one that started all of this. He didn't know if that was on purpose. She came straight to the counter, both hands flat on the surface, looking at him. "I need to tell you everything," she said. "All of it, including the parts that make me look like I handled this completely wrong." He turned off the counter light. He came around to her side. He pulled out 2 chairs, not at the corner table, not at the counter, just the 2 nearest to where they already were. "Sit down," he said. "I'll make tea." She talked for 2 hours. All of it. The risk model she'd built 3 years ago. The fraud she had found. The report that disappeared into Park Jin-young's desk. The 36 months of being held in place while her work appeared under other people's names. The promotion offer and the recording, and the quiet, careful way Park Jin-young had pointed at this cafe, at May, and let the implication do the work a direct threat couldn't. The envelope. The transcript. The letter she still had folded in her coat pocket. May listened. He refilled the tea twice. He didn't interrupt. No questions until she had finished completely. When she stopped talking, the cafe was very still. The lanterns outside had clicked off. The record player had reached the end of its side and was making that soft circular sound of a needle with nowhere left to go. "They pointed at the cafe," May said. "Yes. And you canceled the wedding to protect the cafe." "To protect you? By leaving me?" She looked at her hands. "I know how it sounds." May took off his glasses. He set them on the table between them. He only did that when he needed the words to travel without anything in the way. "You can't protect someone by becoming the thing that hurts them." He said it simply. No anger, just the weight of it. "They threatened me. And your answer was to take the damage yourself before they could reach me. But all I experienced, was you leaving. That was it. Just you. Gone. Her eyes were full. I know, she said. I know that now. The cafe isn't the thing. He said it quietly, like he'd said it to himself before, and was saying it out loud now so she could hear it too. The lanterns, the pastries, the corner table, that's not the thing. You walk through that door, and you are the thing. Everything else is furniture. She was crying now. Not loudly. The way it happens when something that's been held too tight for too long finally gets to be set down somewhere safe. May reached across the table. He tucked a braid back from her face. Gently, the way he did everything, like the motion already knew where it was going. The Saturday in April, he said. Is it still available? She laughed through the crying. That real laugh, the one that surprised her. I'd have to call the guest house. I'll make the pastries. I'm helping. They'll be lopsided. They'll be ours. Monday morning, Park Jin-young arrived at Nova Bridge at 8:30. By 8:43, he had a notification from the compliance department about an external review opened by the CAFU over the weekend. By 8:51, his email access was suspended. At 9 o'clock, the exact minute Sarah was supposed to be sitting across from him signing the NDA, Park Jin-young was sitting across from a different person entirely, answering questions he had spent 3 years preparing to never be asked. Kang Sung-ho had a worse morning. The postponed board evaluation triggered an automatic disclosure clause. Since there was now a live compliance review, the clause activated. His legal team called at 9:15. He tried to reach Park Jin-young. No answer. He spent the rest of the morning understanding what it feels like when the floor disappears. 2 of the institutional clients had their legal teams contact Nova Bridge by 10. By noon, Kang Sung-ho had retained personal counsel. 3 internal investigations were announced by end of day. Nova Bridge's stock dropped 7%. Sarah found out Tuesday. A message forwarded by someone in the compliance department who thought she should know. Her original report, the one Park Jin-young had called deficient, was now the primary evidence in a formal regulatory investigation. She sat at the corner table with May's tea beside her and read the notification twice. Then she took the unsigned letter out of her coat pocket. Read it one more time. Folded it back. They didn't understand what they were standing next to. She looked at May through the kitchen door. He was shaping the morning pastries, unhurried, precise in the particular way that had nothing to do with speed and everything to do with care. Some things, she decided, you don't need to fully understand in order to be grateful for. June found out about the reconciliation from a text. May sent it Sunday night, just before midnight. She came back. I don't know what happened, but everything is okay. June read it 3 times. He typed back, I'm glad. Eat something that isn't pastry. Then he sent one final instruction to Seo Minjun. Sarah Osei's name appears in the Q file as the originating analyst only, not as a cooperating source. She shouldn't spend the next year being interviewed about things she reported 3 years ago. Seo Minjun replied within 2 minutes. Already arranged. June set the phone down. He did not tell May what he had done. He had considered it briefly, the way you consider things you already know you won't do. May would ask questions. He would feel grateful, and then guilty, and then he would spend months trying to understand the parts of his brother's life that June had spent years keeping him away from. Nothing about that served anyone. The problem had existed. June had handled it. May was happy. The sequence was complete. That was the whole story, as far as June was concerned. The first Saturday in April, the Hanok guest house in Bukchon held 40 guests, and one more. He arrived 20 minutes before the ceremony. No assistant, a charcoal suit, white pocket square, the bearing of a man who had made significant decisions every day for a decade and had learned to carry them without letting them show. He spoke to no one. He found a position at the back of the courtyard, where the older trees were, and he stood there and waited. Across the courtyard, May was at the front, navy suit, glasses slightly crooked, as always, hands very still. He spotted June the moment he walked in. He didn't wave, didn't gesture, just looked at his brother across the full width of the courtyard, with everything they were to each other in it. All the years, all the silences, all the things that didn't need to be said because they had already been lived, and nodded once. June nodded back. Sarah's father walked her in. Burgundy dress, braids pinned with small white flowers. She walked like someone who had stopped running, not because she was tired, because she had arrived. She was looking at May. May was looking at her. A string quartet in the corner played something slightly too fast and completely right. When May spoke his vows, he spoke the way he spoke everything, without decoration, without performance. Just the full weight of meaning behind every word. "I've learned something about love this year," he said. "I learned that it sometimes looks like leaving, that protecting someone, and staying with them, aren't always the same choice, that the most honest thing you can do for someone is tell them the truth, even when it arrives late." He paused. "I'm not a complicated man, but I know what I'm made of now, and what I want to be made of, going forward, is this, the particular and permanent company of you." Sarah did not hold it together through that. At the back of the courtyard, near the trees, the 41st guest produced a folded handkerchief from his jacket. Then he stood there holding it, realizing he had no practical use for it in this moment. He put it back. The courtyard broke into applause. June was already turning toward the gate. He had a flight in 3 hours. Tokyo first, then Macau. A call he'd been postponing for 2 weeks that couldn't be postponed again. The world he lived in did not pause for ceremonies. He paused anyway. At the gate. Just for a moment. He turned back. He looked at the courtyard, the 40 guests, the string quartet packing up, Sarah's mother holding her like she hadn't seen her in years. May's relatives from Mapo crowded around him, relieved, loud, exactly the way family is when something that was almost lost has been returned. And on the table near the far wall, the pastries. Small, imperfect, no two the same shape. Made at 5 in the morning by a man who believed in getting to the cafe early, and by the woman who had learned to stand beside him and fold the dough, even though hers always came out wrong. June looked at this for exactly 3 seconds. Then he walked through the gate. His car was there. His phone was already lit up with the first of the evening's obligations. He answered it on the second ring. "Yes," he said. His voice was level, steady, the voice of a man who is exactly who he intends to be. "I'm on my way." And that is the story of the man who protected his brother from shadows his brother never saw. The woman who tried to protect the man she loved by walking into fire alone. And the moment she finally understood that love isn't always loud, sometimes it moves so quietly, you only recognize it after the danger is already gone. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're not subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that button and the bell, so you catch every story we tell. We'll see you in the next one.